My name is Des Armstrong. In 1972, when I was 25 years old, my father, Ben Armstrong, died. It's always been a regret of mine that I never really got to know my dad all that well. You see, he spent all of my formative years in the Merchant Navy, and as such he was away from home quite a lot. For instance, when he was deep sea, that is the Middle East, the Far East, Australia, New Zealand, South America, he'd be away for 6-7 months at a time. And even when he was in coastal waters, that's Belfast, Liverpool, Hesham, Southampton, London, he'd be away for weeks at a time. So it's hardly surprising that we never really got the chance to develop a normal father-son relationship. But what I do know of my dad is that he had a fairly adventurous life. In 1922, when he was 16 years old, he was shipped off to Australia. He worked on the sheep and cattle stations up around Jandowae, Dalby, Toowoomba in Queensland. He spent 4 years in the Light Horse, and then in 1939, at the outbreak of the Second World War, he joined the Australian Army, the 6th Division to be exact. But I think he felt that he'd rather be involved in the European War, so he resigned from the Army, worked his passage back to the UK, and made an application to the RAF. Now, he'd had some flying experience, and I think he thought that the RAF would hand him a Spitfire, point him to the south coast of England and say, go off and shoot me down some Messerschmitts and Me-109s. Of course, it didn't happen like that, and while they were processing his application, he spent more time on convoy duty. He did a total of 10 convoys, the last 5 across the North Atlantic, until that fateful day when his ship, the SS Royal Crown, was confronted by the German battleship, the Gneisenau. The Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst had been on patrol in the North Atlantic. It was an operation the Germans called Operation Berlin, and during that particular period of time, they sank 22 merchant ships. The SS Royal Crown was the last of the ships to be sunk. My dad was taken on board the Gneisenau, which in due course berthed in Brest in northern France. From there he was shipped to a concentration camp, and then onwards to Stalag Malig Nord, which was a prison camp specifically for merchant naval and royal naval seamen. In April 1945, the camp was liberated by the Guards Armoured Division of 30 Corps. He was repatriated back to the UK and recommenced sea duties in September 1945. I have always been very proud of the fact that my dad did his duty. He sat beneath the waterline, listening to the crash of torpedoes hitting other merchant ships, and sat there at his post while ships were being sunk all around him, knowing that at any moment a torpedo could strike his ship, collapse the wall of the ship, and 1 million gallons of freezing cold North Atlantic water would envelop him within seconds. So, this documentary is to honour my father and to honour all the men of the Merchant Navy who carried out their duties to the full, and also in memory of all the men who served with him for 4 years in a German POW camp. Ben was born on the 29th of December 1906 on his parents' farm just outside the village of Donaghcloney in County Down, Northern Ireland. He was christened in St John's Anglican Church in the parish of Kilwarden. His father was Moses Armstrong and his grandfather was Daniel Armstrong. His great-grandfather, Alexander Armstrong, who came from Stamford in Lincolnshire, had purchased the farm back in 1840. His mother was the former Mary Ward, who was the daughter of John Ward, who owned a dairy farm in Hillsborough. Not a lot is known about Ben's early life, except that he and his father were keen playing members of Donaghcloney Cricket Club. In this photograph, Moses is fourth from the right in the back row. And this is a shot of Donaghcloney Cricket Club as it looks today. Sometime before 1911, the farm was sold and the family moved to 22 Greenore Street, Belfast, as can be authenticated by this copy of the 1911 census signed by Moses Armstrong. This is a shot of the inside of the house taken from a recent estate agent's advertisement. In 1922, at the age of 16, Ben sailed for Australia. He landed first in Fremantle, then moved across the country to Brisbane, then east to Toowoomba before settling on a station in Jandowae. These are some photographs of the buildings in Jandowae in and around the 1920s and the 1930s. Ben spent 4 years in the Australian Light Horse, a territorial unit of the Australian Army. These are some photographs of how the Light Horse looked on parade. Once, when out in the bush on an exercise, Ben's appendix ruptured and he almost died. In time they got him to the Jandowae Hospital, where they managed to save his life. This is how the Jandowae Hospital looks at the moment. This is a photograph of the main street of Jandowae taken probably 20 years ago. And this is the cricket field where Ben played cricket. He was an opening batsman and wicket-keeper. And this is the pub where the team would have got together for a few beers after the game. This is a photograph of the inside of the pub as it looks today. In 1939, Ben joined the regular Australian Army, but it wasn't to his liking, and he decided that he'd rather get involved in the European War than end up spending time in the jungle fighting the Japanese. So he resigned from the army, and these are his discharge papers. Ben worked his passage home to the UK on the SS Mahana, a New Zealand registered ship which was known as the honeymoon ship, in that it carried newlywed couples from England to New Zealand. He did 5 convoys on the Mahana, and ironically she went through the war without so much as a scratch. He joined the SS Royal Crown, and he did 5 convoys across the North Atlantic. The Royal Crown had already seen some action in the war, having been bombed twice. On one occasion, all of the crew perished when the captain tried to run the ship aground when she was severely damaged. This is a copy of Ben's log, showing the date when the SS Royal Crown was sent to the bottom by the German pocket battleship, the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst.
Then, on January the 22nd, 1941, Operation Berlin began. The two battleships tried again to break through into the Atlantic. This was the start of the longest and most successful action by the two battleships. Sailing far north, they succeeded in breaking through the Danish Strait in the night of 3rd to 4th February 1941. 30 minutes after midnight came the proud signal from flagship Gneisenau. For the first time in the history of the war, German battleships have succeeded in breaking through into the Atlantic. And now, let's go get 'em, Commander-in-Chief of the fleet. The pride of the crew is almost indescribable. For them, this was, and always will be, the most famous moment in Scharnhorst history.
Der Flottenchef, Admiral Lütjen, hat seinen Stab zur Besprechung versammelt. Schluss vor den Bug. Marsespruch, stoppen Sie sofort. Die Besatzung eines Dampfers ist in die Boote gegangen und wird von einem der Schlachtschiffe übernommen. Durch Schüsse in die Wasserlinie wird das feindliche Handelsschiff schnell zum Sinken gebracht. Engländer, trotz ausdrücklichen Verbotes, gibt er Funkzeichen und verrät damit den Standort des Verbandes. Zeit an Bord.
The result of this two-month operation was 22 merchant ships sunk with a total of 115,622 registered tons, and of 3 tankers destined for France, only one of them made it. On March the 22nd, 1941, the battleships entered Brest in southern France, and the Operation Berlin was over.
Because the German authorities did not want the British Admiralty to know that German raiders were operating in the Atlantic, the prisoners were kept incognito. They were sent to St. Bosbul concentration camp, but the protecting authority, the Swiss, insisted that the prisoners be housed in a proper military prisoner of war camp. In due course, a camp was established outside the village of Westertimke in northern Germany. It was known as Stalag Millig Malag Nor. In this photograph taken in the camp in 1943, the prisoners can be seen wearing British Army uniforms. These uniforms were supplied by the Germans and had been taken from the dead and wounded from the disastrous raid on Dieppe in 1942. My dad's uniform actually had 2 bullet holes and was covered in blood. He had to wash it 3 times before he felt that he could wear the uniform. In the main, the German guards treated the prisoners quite well. Most of the German guards, in fact, were ex-German naval ratings. At the start, the food was acceptable, but as the war went on and German food supplies became less and less, then obviously the quality of the food deteriorated. In this photograph, the tall officer on the right is Gestapo. He was responsible for security within the prison. The speech for itself, as you stepped inside the wire, you were shot. This is Commander Rowe, who was the original commandant of the camp. In winter time, they would flood an area with water, let it freeze, and enjoy some ice skating. This is Big Willie, which was used to clean out the latrines. Not a very pleasant job. And this was the senior British officer. This was some of the money that the prisoners could use to buy cigarettes and food when available. The camp had a very active theatre company, and they put on many excellent productions. This is a hut that has been turned into a workshop, and I suspect that a lot of the parts that were used for the staging of the plays were made in these rooms. So indeed match some of the stuff that we used for escape. These are stamps that were used to send letters back home. And this was one of the guard dogs. I believe his name was Prinsky. This is one of the German guards who coincidentally settled in Australia after the war. Here they found one of the tunnels that had been dug. And here a soccer player has a sore thigh tended to.
Bless 'em all, bless 'em all, the long and the short and the tall. Bless all the sergeants and WO1s. Bless all the corporals and their thinking sons, 'cause we're saying goodbye to them all, as back to their billets they crawl. You'll get no promotion this side of the ocean, so cheer up, my lads, bless them all.
Bless them all, bless them all, the long and the short and the tall. Bless all the sergeants and WO1, bless all the corporals and their ranking sons, 'cause we're saying goodbye to them all, as back to their billets they crawl. You'll get no promotion this side of the ocean, so cheer up, my lads, bless them all.
We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rob along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, if the Siegfried line's still there.
Hang out the washing on the Siegfried line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just run along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, if the Siegfried line's still there.
Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Tuck me in my little wooden bed. We all love you, Sergeant Major. When we hear you bawling, show a leg. Don't forget to wake me in the morning and bring me round a nice hot cup of tea. Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major, be a mother to me. Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Tuck me in my little wooden bed. We all love you, Sergeant Major. When we hear you bawling, show a leg. Don't forget to wake me in the morning and bring me round a nice hot cup of tea. Kiss me goodnight, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major, be a mother to me. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after. Tomorrow, when the world is free. The shepherd will tend his sheep.
man's land.